Welcome to From Manuscript to Ministry, created and produced by Elder William Moore, the podcast where faith meets the written word. Each week, your hosts David and Martha dive into powerful, self-published books by Christian authors who are boldly using their God-given voices to impact the kingdom. Whether you're an aspiring writer, a reader seeking spiritual growth, or a ministry leader in search of authentic resources, this is your space to be inspired, encouraged, and equipped. Let's explore today's featured book and uncover the life-changing message behind the manuscript.
Have you ever found yourself, right in the middle of your day, just ticking off tasks, answering emails, maybe moving from one thing to the next, and then maybe in a quiet moment you just stop and think, is this really it? Am I making a difference, or am I just busy? It's a pretty deep question, isn't it? This universal search for that sweet spot between just being productive, getting things done, and having a real sense of purpose. We're all kind of trying to balance our ambitions, the daily grind, with that deep human thing, that desire to contribute something that matters, not just for us, but for others too. This is the deep dive, and today we're going on a bit of a journey into some, timeless wisdom that speaks right to these feelings. We're opening up parts of William Moore's devotional guide, Proverbs 31, empowering quotes for everyday motivation, and we're really going to focus in on two incredibly rich chapters, Chapter 5 and Chapter 6.
And I think it's really vital right from the start to frame this properly. While Proverbs 31 is, yes, an ancient text, Moore's take on it really shines a light on how relevant it still is today. We're not just looking at historical advice for a specific group. We're digging for these universal insights about what makes a life, well-lived, principles that frankly just transcend time, culture, demographics. It's quite remarkable. Our goal isn't just to skim the surface, not at all. It's to get right into the heart of these teachings. We want to look past the sort of superficial readings and really unearth these deeper truths about how we actually engage with our work, and maybe more importantly, why we connect with our communities, why we reach out. It's about understanding the core values, really, that underpin a life that's rich in both diligent effort and, real compassion.
That's a really powerful way to put it, that distinction. So our mission for this deep dive is exactly that. We want to pull out the most important nuggets of wisdom regarding what Moore calls the godly work ethic and the compassionate nature of this virtuous woman figure. And like you said, it's not just about listing what she does know. It's about getting into the motivation, the why behind it all. And maybe most importantly, what those lessons might mean for you listening right now in your life today. So we'll be zeroing in on those two big themes from chapters 5 and 6. She works with willing hands and she extends her hands to the poor. And I think what we'll find, and this might seem a bit counterintuitive at first, is how things like productivity and generosity aren't shown as opposing forces at all. They're presented more like twin virtues, seamlessly intertwined, almost elevating each other.
Oh, absolutely. Twin virtues, that's a great way to think about it. And today, we're really aiming for that nuanced understanding, This deep dive, it's going to go way beyond just simple instructions or moral rules. We'll explore the really intricate how and why these virtues aren't just important on their own, but are actually fundamentally interconnected, foundational, really, to a truly purposeful and impactful life. Think of this maybe as your shortcut, your path to getting a really solid, well-informed view on this specific, pretty powerful framework. It offers insights that could genuinely reshape how you see your daily grind, your personal growth, and maybe even your contribution to the world.
All right, let's do it. Hands that hustle, hearts that serve.
Sounds good.
So let's really dig into Chapter 5 first. It opens with that phrase, she works with willing hands. When I first hear work ethic, my mind immediately jumps to, metrics, right? Hours logged, tasks checked off, deadlines hit. It's all about being busy, being productive, always pushing forward. But Moore seems to be pointing towards something, much, much deeper than just sheer output. So in his view, what does willing hands truly mean? Beyond just getting stuff done, is it about a different quality of work?
It's absolutely about a different quality of engagement, yes. It's this profound internal posture. That's the key. It distinguishes just, activity from truly purposeful labor. Moore makes this really critical distinction. So he says this productivity for productivity's sake. No. He meticulously describes it as purposeful devotion. The hands aren't just occupied. They are not idle, but intentional. That word intentional, that's the linchpin here. The source explicitly says her work is infused with love, dignity, and diligence. Now that phrase, that's incredibly rich, isn't it? It points to an internal state, right? An attitude that doesn't just come before the action, but actually shapes the action itself. It imbues every task with a certain spirit. It's about bringing your whole self, your heart, your values to whatever it is you're doing. And what's really fascinating here, and you see this thread running through Moore's work, is his point that true success, real success, starts in the heart and flows into everything we do. Now, that's not just some, feel-good saying. It has really profound implications for the quality of our work, and maybe even more importantly, the sustainability of our effort. Think about it. If your work genuinely springs from this internal well of love, dignity, and diligence, it fundamentally changes the nature of the work itself. Let's maybe break that down a bit. Dignity. When dignity is infused into labor, it elevates even the most, humble or seemingly ordinary task. Imagine, say, a potter carefully shaping clay.
Right.
For them, it's not just about making a pot. It's about respecting the material, honoring the craft, creating something, beautiful and functional. Their willingness, their pride in the work, it transforms a simple job into this act of profound respect for the task, the materials, and even for the person who will eventually use it. And this applies everywhere, right? Not just in crafts. Think about managing a home. Love might show up not just as a quick tidy up, but as this meticulous care for a space that genuinely nurtures a family. Arranging kids' books just so, mending something torn instead of just tossing it, preparing a meal with real thought for the people who will eat it. It's about making a sanctuary, or, in a professional setting. Diligence isn't just hitting the deadline, it's striving for excellence, paying real attention to detail, committing to the highest standard because you genuinely believe in the value of what you're doing, whether that's a report or code or a strategy document. Now flick that. What happens when work lacks that willing heart, when it's missing that infusion of love, dignity, diligence, when it's done, begrudgingly, out of sheer obligation? Or just for the paycheck? Well, the person doing it probably feels drained, right? Disengaged, maybe even a bit resentful. And the quality of the work itself, it often suffers because that intrinsic motivation just isn't there. And critically, the people around them, colleagues, family, clients, they often sense it too. That lack of genuine engagement, that absence of a willing spirit, it turns what could be a contribution into, just a burden.
Wow. That really is a powerful shift in perspective, moving from just performance, just output, to this profound internal state. So if it all starts in the heart, what does this mean for someone, listening right now who's just feeling overwhelmed by modern life, where it often feels like we're just scrambling and reacting to constant demands?
Yeah, that feeling is so common, isn't it? And it leads right into Moore's next insight, which is that this woman is not driven by pressure, but by peace. Now that is a huge distinction in our world, which is so hyper-connected, so often overwhelming. Her hands are described as eager, not reluctant. It's not about living in some bubble immune to demands, no. It's about the internal posture, the way you meet those demands. The work is done willingly, the text says, not out of obligation, but out of purpose. When you cultivate that clear sense of purpose, like a compass inside you, it guides your efforts. And it really does mitigate that awful feeling of just being obligated, just being weighed down by external pressures. We can kind of think of this as purpose in motion, and this intrinsic motivation has enormous benefits, psychologically, even spiritually. When your drive comes from within, from a deeply felt sense of meaning, of contribution, it becomes the sustainable source for your effort. You find you can bring excellence, dedication, and joy to the task, not because someone's watching or because there's a bonus on the line, but because you yourself intrinsically see the value in what you're doing. Think about that skilled craftsman again, perfecting a piece of furniture. Their hands are eager, right? The process has this quiet joy, and the result reflects that deep dedication. Now contrast that with, say, doing some admin task just to avoid getting told off. The energy, the focus, the sheer quality of attention, it's all dramatically different. Learning to find purpose, even in tasks that seem routine or mundane, maybe organizing your files, prepping a presentation, handling a tricky client, tending your garden, it can fundamentally shift your whole approach and honestly the outcome too. And this internal drive, it's also a really powerful antidote to burnout. It really is. Your energy isn't constantly being drained by external pressures. Instead, it's being kind of replenished by your own commitment to a purpose that's bigger than just the task itself. It builds a kind of resilience that, frankly, external motivators just can't provide.
Okay, and this next point, this is where it got really interesting for me. William Moore actually frames this whole thing, not just as effort or a good work ethic,
but as an act of worship. That's a profound idea, isn't it? It completely elevates the everyday, the mundane.
Oh, it absolutely does. It's a truly profound idea, theologically, philosophically, this notion that even the mundane becomes meaningful when done with a willing spirit. Moore is very clear about this. He states, willing work is sacred work, and diligence is an expression of faith. Now, that perspective radically transforms how we understand responsibility, our calling, even just our daily lives. If every single act, from the smallest chore at home to the most complex project at work, can be an act of worship, well, that elevates the inherent significance of everything we do, doesn't it? It means the care we put into our work, the excellence we aim for, isn't just for ourselves or for human praise. It actually becomes an offering, a kind of spiritual engagement. Think about the implications of that. It really challenges us to rethink how we define success or even failure. If your core intention is to infuse your work with love and diligence as an expression of faith, then the intrinsic value of the effort itself, the integrity of the process, the spirit you bring to it, that becomes paramount. It means that even if the immediate external result isn't exactly what you hoped for, the act itself still held deep meaning and value. Think about the enduring appeal of some traditional crafts, maybe Japanese pottery or sword making. Often, the artisan sees their work almost as a spiritual practice, right? A form of mindfulness, devotion, the meticulous attention, the years spent perfecting a skill. It's not just about the market price of the final product. It's about the spiritual journey, the respect for the materials, the process. Their work is revered precisely because it embodies that willing spirit, that sacred work. And this perspective, it hugely impacts job satisfaction. It's much harder to feel disengaged or, resentful if you see your work, even the tough parts, as having this deeper spiritual dimension. And naturally, the quality of your output, the integrity of your actions, your overall well-being, they tend to improve because you're invested way beyond just the paycheck or the pat on the back.
Okay, so if we really embrace this idea, this willing, purposeful work rooted in the heart, see it even as worship, what are the practical, tangible implications for your daily life? For those of us trying to navigate demanding careers, raise families, chase personal goals, how does this actually play out day to day?
Well, the most practical implication is really a profound rethinking of how we usually measure success, those metrics that often dominate our culture. More explicitly states, working with a willing heart honors God more than any paycheck. Now, this isn't saying money doesn't matter. I mean, Proverbs 31 woman's clearly shrewd and capable in business too, but it powerfully shifts the ultimate focus, doesn't it? It guides us away from constantly chasing external rewards, salary, promotions, public praise, power, and moves us towards internal fulfillment, towards a deep alignment with a higher purpose. And why is that distinction just so incredibly important, especially in a world that seems relentlessly driven by external validation? Because external validation, well, it's fleeting, isn't it? It's fickle. And it often leads to this endless kind of unfulfilling chase. As soon as you hit one external target, another one pops up. It can lead to this constant state of dissatisfaction. But when your motivation is internal, rooted in purpose, in that willing heart, in a sense of contributing something meaningful, your sense of accomplishment becomes far more resilient. It's deeper, more satisfying. You're not relying on applause from outside. You're building this sustainable sense of worth from within. Let's maybe picture two people in very similar jobs. One is driven mainly by the paycheck. The job is just a means to an end. They might do okay, meet the requirements, but their engagement is shallow. They're clock watchers, always looking for the next external reward. This person might feel relief when a task is done, sure, but probably not deep satisfaction. Now, the other person approaches their work with that willing heart. They see it as a purposeful contribution, maybe even an act infused with dignity, with worship. This second person, facing the exact same challenges, maybe even the same pay, they'll likely experience much greater job satisfaction. They'll show more resilience when things get tough. And ultimately, their positive attitude, their dedication, their deeper investment, it will likely lead to better outcomes, not just for them personally in terms of growth, but also for the people they serve, whether that's clients, colleagues, or their family. Their impact is different, not just because of skills, but because their source of drive is fundamentally different. It changes the whole experience.
Okay, wow, that really lays the groundwork. Now let's pivot. Let's shift from that diligence, that purposeful work, to chapter 6. She extends her hands to the poor. We spent a good amount of time talking about the hustle, right? The willing hands. Now we're shifting focus to generosity, to altruism. How do these two, which sometimes feel so distinct, actually connect? It often feels like society pushes us to choose, doesn't it? Either focus on building your own success, your own security, or devote yourself to helping others. It feels like an either sometimes.
That's exactly the tension, isn't it? And it's precisely where Moore introduces one of his most, I think, powerful and kind of counterintuitive insights. He states it very clearly. Her hands don't just build, they bless. He goes on, she's not only industrious, but generous. This directly tackles that common perception you just mentioned that building and blessing are somehow mutually exclusive or competing demands. Moore makes it absolutely clear. Productivity and generosity are not opposites. They are twin virtues of the Proverbs 31 woman. That right there, that's a crucial, foundational understanding. It completely reframes the whole narrative. It's not about choosing between personal success and giving back. It's about understanding how success, especially when it's built with that willing heart we talked about, actively creates the space for service. It enables it. When you diligently cultivate and build up resources, whether that's money or deep knowledge, valuable skills, strong relationships, you simultaneously expand your capacity for greater, more impactful generosity. One actually fuels the other. The purposeful work provides the means, right? And the compassionate heart directs those means toward blessing others. Think about the implications there. If someone is incredibly productive, really successful by worldly standards, but completely lacks generosity, what's missing? Their life, while maybe outwardly successful, feels incomplete, doesn't it? It lacks that outward expression of purpose, that vital impact beyond just themselves. Their legacy might be one of accumulation, sure, but maybe not of genuine contribution. Conversely, if someone is incredibly generous but lacks the diligence or productivity to build anything sustainable, well, their ability to give might be limited, or their efforts might just fizzle out. The true ideal, the real strength, lies in the synergy between the two. Purposeful, willing work generates the resources, the time, the energy, the skills. And a deeply compassionate heart directs those means strategically, effectively towards helping others. You see this in leaders who build successful companies through sheer hard work and smarts. And then using those very resources, dedicate huge amounts of money and influence to philanthropy. Or think about research places that work diligently to create new medical treatments and then use their success to fund programs making those treatments available to people who couldn't otherwise afford them. It's about building strong, stable foundations so that you can then build even stronger, more impactful bridges to help lift others up.
I love that analogy, building strong foundations to build strong bridges. That's really elegant. And you mentioned how her influence isn't just contained within her own household. It extends far beyond that. What's fascinating is how her reach is described. It's not limited, right? It expands to touch people who are often overlooked.
Exactly. Moore really emphasizes that true virtue doesn't stop at the self. It just doesn't. This woman's hands aren't just busy inside her own home. They stretch beyond comfort zones to live, help, and heal. That's a very active description. She actively seeks out and reaches the broken, the overlooked, and the needy. And the key takeaway here, which I think is so powerful, is this. A virtuous woman's reach always exceeds her routine. This isn't just, passive kindness, a donation here or there when it's convenient. No, it's an active, intentional, and often quite challenging outreach. It highlights the absolute necessity of things like empathy, social justice, and divine generosity as crucial parts of a truly well-rounded, genuinely virtuous life. Empathy, in this sense, isn't just feeling sorry for someone. It's about really trying to understand their situation, stepping into their shoes, and then moving to tangibly meet their need. And social justice here implies a real commitment to actively trying to fix disparities, supporting those who are disadvantaged, maybe even challenging the systems that create hardship in the first place. This compassion then translates into direct, real action. And that often requires her to stretch beyond comfort zones. So what does that look like practically? Well, it might mean giving her precious time when her schedule is already jammed. It might mean sharing her carefully managed resources when, frankly, she could just keep them for herself. Or it could mean engaging with people and situations that are difficult, maybe uncomfortable, even emotionally draining. And this outreach, it can take so many forms. It's not just about money, though that's important, of course. It could be offering time through dedicated volunteering, sharing specific skills to empower others, maybe teaching, mentoring, job training. Or it could be simply providing deep emotional support, just being a listening ear for someone going through a hard time. Imagine, maybe, an entrepreneur. She's had a demanding week building her business, right? Then she dedicates her Saturdays to mentoring young girls in her community, sharing her knowledge, her encouragement, helping them see their own potential. Her reach, in that case, goes way beyond her professional routine, doesn't it? And it leaves this lasting impact on those individuals and maybe even on the future of her community. It's about leveraging all your resources, personal, professional, relational, for the good of others.
And then we get to these really profound statements you mentioned earlier. Service is not a task, it's a testimony. And giving is not charity, it's legacy. Those are incredibly powerful ways to think about it. They completely reframe how we might normally view acts of kindness or generosity.
They absolutely are game changers, aren't they? They shift our whole perspective on generosity and service, moving it from something maybe transactional or obligatory to something truly transformational. Service is a testimony. What does that mean? It means every single act of service, big or small, it says something profound about the values, the character, the inner convictions of the person doing it. It's a living, breathing testament to their beliefs, their compassion, their commitment to the well-being of others. It's an action that often resonates much more deeply, speaks more eloquently than any words possibly could. And Moore takes this even further, stating that every act of service becomes a seed sown into legacy and eternity. Wow. This isn't just about making an immediate, maybe fleeting impact. No, it's about contributing to something lasting, something that genuinely outlives the act itself and even the giver. The concept of legacy here is so potent. It implies that your giving doesn't just fix an immediate problem, it creates this positive, enduring ripple effect that keeps benefiting others long after you've moved on. It's like planting a tree, isn't it? Its shade and fruit will nourish generations you might never even meet. And then there's that other powerful insight. Compassion is strength made visible. This just completely dismantles any silly notion that compassion is somehow a weakness. No way. On the contrary, it's an active, formidable, hugely impactful force. It actually demands immense strength, emotional strength, mental resilience, sometimes even physical endurance to consistently reach out, to face hardship with others, and to offer genuine, sustained help. And this visible strength, it inspires other people, it fosters hope, and it brings about real, concrete, positive change. Think about the tireless work of someone who spends years, maybe decades, advocating for affordable housing in their city. Their service becomes this powerful testimony to their unwavering belief in justice and human dignity. Their tireless giving of time, energy, advocacy builds a legacy that directly benefits countless families, providing stability, opportunity for generations. In that context, their compassion isn't just some warm feeling, it's a visible, undeniable force for profound good. The ripple effects of that kind of dedicated, heart-driven service can multiply in ways we can't even imagine, truly sowing seeds into eternity.
So, okay, we've clearly seen how her strength, her success, isn't just hoarded for herself, shared generously. Her personal success isn't just the end goal. It actually becomes the means to a greater good.
Precisely. That's the perfect synthesis. Moore puts it beautifully when he says, her success makes space for service. And that's not just a clever phrase. It's a fundamental challenge to how we often view achievement in our culture. He directly challenges us to become vessels of generosity in a world starving for compassion. That's a strong call to action. It frames personal achievement, whether that's financial wealth, intellectual ability, influential connections, whatever, not as the ultimate destination, but as a crucial resource. A resource to be leveraged for the broader good of society. The virtuous woman in this model exemplifies how individual ability and success can be intentionally directed, utilized for collective well-being. Her strength, whatever form it takes, her money, her skills, her wisdom, her influence, is not hoarded but shared. And this raises a really vital question about responsibility in our own lives, doesn't it? If you have the capacity to build, to succeed, to accumulate, do you also carry a responsibility to contribute to the well-being of your community, of the world? Moore's perspective strongly suggests, yes, you do. To be a vessel of generosity means actively choosing to be a conduit, right? Allowing blessings and resources to flow through you to others, rather than just accumulating them for purely self-serving reasons. It shifts the whole paradigm from just self-enrichment to shared flourishing. Imagine just for a second two contrasting communities. In the first, everyone focuses solely on personal accumulation, hoarding resources, talents. It might be materially wealthy, sure, but socially it might be quite impoverished, marked by isolation, maybe big disparities. Now, picture another community. Here, individuals consciously use their success, their resources, their time, their energy to distribute benefit, to lift others up, empower those around them, invest in collective well-being. The transformation would be profound, wouldn't it? You'd likely see a more connected, more resilient, more equitable, more compassionate society, one where individual strength multiplies for the benefit of everyone. That's the model of contribution Moore is advocating for, where personal success is intrinsically linked to the collective good.
Okay, so after exploring both willing hands and extending hands in such detail, what does this all really mean when we bring these two incredibly powerful chapters, these two ideas together? How do diligence and generosity, productivity and compassion, how do they ultimately weave together into one coherent picture?
Yeah, when we synthesize these two, the core message that just shines through is one of deep, inescapable integration. The ideal, according to Moore, isn't about it's not choosing between building diligently and blessing generously, not at all. Rather, it's about understanding and living them out as mutually reinforcing parts of a whole, deeply purposeful life. The overarching theme, the thing that really defines this virtuous woman, is exactly that: hands of purpose, heart of compassion. These aren't separate compartments in life that you switch between. No, they're two interconnected dimensions of a single integrated way of being. And both spring from that deep internal willing heart we started with. Think of it maybe like the roots and the branches of a really healthy tree. The purposeful, diligent work we talked about in Chapter 5, those willing hands that cultivate, build, manage, they're like the strong roots. They create the very capacity, the stability, the resources needed for impactful service later on. When your roots are deep and strong, well, then you're much better positioned to extend your branches outwards, right? Offering shade, offering fruit. That's the extending hands of Chapter 6. And conversely, that spirit of service and generosity, that compassionate heart, it elevates the purpose of the work itself. It gives it deeper meaning beyond just personal gain. It's like building a really beautiful, sturdy bridge. That's your purposeful work, which then allows safe passage for everyone who needs to cross. That's your compassionate outreach. One enables the other, strengthens the other, and both are fundamentally richer because of the other. That synergy, that's what allows for a life of real impact and sustainable flourishing.
It really does seem that for Moore, everything circles back to the heart, doesn't it? The real transformation, the source for all these virtues, it truly starts inside.
Absolutely. That profound link, that intricate connection between your inner motivation and your external actions, it's completely central to Moore's whole message. That willing spirit we discussed, that internal stance of love, dignity, diligence, that's what transforms what could be just mundane work into something sacred, something like worship. It infuses it with dignity, with purpose that lasts, and this internal peace, this clarity of purpose that is precisely what then empowers the outward action of compassion. As Moore keeps reminding us, true success starts in the heart and flows into everything we do. It just does. If your heart isn't aligned, if your spirit is reluctant, if your main motivation is just self-serving, then even actions that look good on the outside can lack real sustainable impact. They lack authenticity. They might feel like actions without a soul. And this raises a really important question for all of us, I think. Can you truly perform acts of deep, selfless, impactful compassion if your internal state isn't aligned with purpose and peace? Moore seems to suggest that the truest, most transformative compassion really springs from an integrated inner self, from a heart that's already willing, already at peace. So cultivating this willing heart, it isn't just about making your work feel easier, no. It actually fosters a life that naturally overflows with both diligent, excellent work and generous, impactful giving. Imagine the long-term impact on someone's character, their reputation, consistency in both their work and their giving. A deep, unshakable sense of fulfillment, an authentic legacy that lasts. Precisely because their motivations are consistently rooted in genuine purpose and deep compassion. This is about building a truly integrated life, not just ticking off accomplishments.
And ultimately, that all seems to culminate in building that lasting legacy through service.
Exactly. Moore really solidifies this powerful idea that every single thing we do, whether it's building through purposeful work or blessing through generous outreach, contributes to something much bigger than just ourselves. Every act of service becomes a seed sown into legacy and eternity. That perspective, it shifts our focus dramatically, away from maybe fleeting achievements or immediate gratification and towards enduring, even generational impact. It's about understanding that our efforts, especially when they're infused with purpose and compassion, don't just vanish. They create ripples, tangible ripples, intangible ripples. They influence other people. They inspire communities. They contribute to this broader, unfolding human story that continues long after we're gone. And that understanding of legacy, it's one of the most powerful motivators there is for sustained effort, for sustained generosity. It pushes us to think beyond our immediate wants and needs and towards the real betterment of the world. Think about someone who dedicates their whole career to developing, say, sustainable energy technology. They're driven not just by potential profit, but by this deep, genuine desire to tackle climate change to ensure a healthier planet for future generations. Their purposeful work creates the innovative products, the systems, and their compassionate heart ensures those solutions are accessible, impactful for the people who need them most. That, right there, is a legacy built through the integrated acts of purpose and profound compassion. A legacy that truly does sow seeds into eternity.
Wow. We've really covered a lot today. We've taken a truly deep dive into these two incredibly powerful and, as we've seen, interconnected chapters from William Moore's devotional, Proverbs 31. We've explored what it really means to work not just with busy hands, but with willing hands, hands driven by purpose, maybe even seen as an act of worship. And then we journeyed into the profound meaning of extending those hands to the poor, seeing how generosity isn't just an add-on, but a true twin virtue to our diligence, building that lasting legacy.
And what's really striking, isn't it, is how these ancient words, seen through Moore's insightful lens, offer such clear, practical relevance for your life today. Right now, these aren't just abstract ideals from long ago, no. They are robust, interwoven calls to action. They challenge us to really reflect on our own character, to refine our sense of purpose, and ultimately to amplify our positive impact on the world around us. They powerfully remind us that our internal state, that willing heart, is the fundamental source, the wellspring, for all truly meaningful and sustainable action on the outside.
So for you, listening right now as you head back into your week, here's maybe one final thought to just mull over.
Yeah, here's something to think about. If every act of your work, no matter how big or small, could be consciously reframed as an act of worship, and if every act of your generosity, regardless of its scale, could be seen as a seed sown into a lasting legacy, how might deliberately shifting your intention in just one area of your life, maybe just this week, how might that fundamentally change your personal experience of that task or that act? And then how might that shift ripple outwards to influence those around you? What new sense of peace, perhaps, or purpose, or even profound impact might that simple yet incredibly powerful internal shift unlock for you?
It's really an invitation, isn't it? An invitation to reflect on your own hands of purpose and heart of compassion, and to truly see the amazing, boundless potential for profound impact that lies right there within your everyday actions. This deep dive is really just the beginning of your own personal exploration into these timeless virtues. Keep digging, keep asking questions, and keep making that impact.
Thank you for joining us today on From Manuscript to Ministry. If today's featured book encouraged, challenged, or inspired you, we invite you to take the next step. Purchase a copy and support the author behind the message. When you invest in their work, you're not just buying a book, you're sowing into good ground and helping advance the kingdom of God through faith-filled storytelling. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs it. Your support helps these powerful voices reach even further. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, keep praying, and keep walking boldly in your calling. God is still turning manuscripts into ministries.